don't want to group India in as a middle power, but the non-hegemons, that's where when we come together, that's part of the advantage.
And we're now negotiating a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with the intention to double two-way trade by 2030. Our goal, to be clear, is to sign that agreement by the end of this year. We can also be India's strategic partner in critical minerals and metals for your manufacturing, for your clean tech, and for your nuclear industries. And finally, India's leadership in AI and the digital economy aligns well with our mission to develop and commercialize those technologies as well as quantum, and, as I said earlier, to deepen our defense innovation. And more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons, tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. And the multilateral institutions on which countries have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, that architecture of collective problem solving are all under threat. As a result of this, many countries are concluding that they must develop greater strategic autonomy. And that impulse is understandable. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. A country that cannot feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. But building true strategic autonomy requires diversification and partnership, not isolation. And it creates enormous opportunities for Canada and India to work together, at a minimum to limit risks, but really to increase prosperity and to build our collective sovereignty. Now, this room knows that the economic security and the prosperity of our countries depends on what we would call a strategic stack that is much longer than conventional energy, food, and defense, as important as they are. Today, sovereignty requires reliable access to space-based communications and semiconductors. It requires unhindered access to AI, critical minerals, clean energy technologies, and vaccines. It requires digital sovereignty, beginning with a sovereign cloud and extending through the intelligence infrastructure stack. And to repeat, we know that strategic autonomy does not mean isolation. It means being strong enough to be a partner of choice. And India is one of our natural partners. And to put those partnerships in context, we're rapidly diversifying abroad. We have agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the European Union, including becoming the only non-EU country to join SAFE, their defense procurement arrangement. We've signed 20 trade and security deals on four continents, in just 8 months, including with China, Indonesia, the UAE, and others. We're negotiating free trade pacts with ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, Mercosur, and most importantly, with all due respect, most importantly, with India. And we are a stable, reliable partner in a world that's anything but. A partner that builds and values relationships for the long term. And we're here this week because Canada and India are natural partners. That partnership begins with our people. 2 million Canadians trace their roots to India, including leaders in business, science, and government. Tens of thousands of people travel between our countries every year to visit families and friends. There's more than 1,000 Canadian companies already doing business here in India. 400,000 talented Indians study in Canada. That is double the number that study in the United States. It is 4 times the number that study in the United Kingdom. And just as Indian students come to study at Canadian universities come to India. Today it was my pleasure to join Universities Canada, representing over 20 of our top institutions, in announcing the signing of 13 new agreements for research, student exchanges, hybrid campuses, AI centers of excellence. We should aim much higher, and we are aiming much higher, and to be more strategic in our partnership. And that's why, immediately after my election last year, our government set out to renew our relationship with India. I invited Prime Minister Modi to the G7 summit in Canada. And when he came a few weeks later, we agreed to re-engage across security, energy, and technology. A few months later, at the G20 summit in Johannesburg, Prime Minister Modi and I launched a landmark partnership with Australia on critical minerals and technology. And we're now negotiating a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with the intention to double two-way trade by 2030. Our goal, to be clear, is to sign that agreement by the end of this year. Our foreign ministers have met 5 times in 5 months. Minister Anand is here this evening. Our ministers of environment, our Minister of Trade, Minister of AI have all led delegations to India. I'm joined by them, the Minister of Finance, the head of our civil service, and the premiers of New Brunswick and Saskatchewan, to give a sense of the breadth and depth of this relationship and the scale of the opportunities. And Premier Moe and Premier Holt, thank you for your leadership, and thank you. Our visit is focused on the core areas where we can work together to create that greater sovereignty, greater choice, and greater prosperity for our people. And that naturally begins with food and energy, given our places as Canada's position as a food and energy superpower. I'll give a few examples. LNG. We intend to increase our export capacity to Asia by 50 million tons in the coming years. It extends to nuclear cooperation, from being the most reliable long-term supplier of uranium to building large-scale and SMR reactors. We can also be India's strategic partner in critical minerals and metals for your manufacturing, for your clean tech, and for your nuclear industries. And in the other respect, India can help us to double our grid with clean power by 2040. And finally, India's leadership in AI and the digital economy aligns well with our mission to develop and commercialize those technologies, as well as quantum, and, as I said earlier, to deepen our defense innovation. My friends, Canada is clear-eyed about the world as it is, and we are equally determined to forge a new path in it. We are a confident and ambitious nation, and that confidence, that ambition, brings us here to India, to lay and build on the foundations that have been laid by tens of millions of citizens in both our nations, to work together to create a more resilient, a more prosperous, and a more just future for our peoples. As communities in Canada and India mark Holi in just a few days, our bilateral relationship is also entering a new chapter, embodying the festival's vibrancy and its values of renewal and opportunity.
India and your visit here to India. As you pointed out, this is the first bilateral visit by a Canadian Prime Minister in the last 8 years. And before we talk about the reset, we need to talk about the repair. And where do you believe you find yourself in that process of repair? Do you believe that the invitation to the Prime Minister to be at the G7 was really the most meaningful start of the repair process?
Well, I think yes, I think it was the start of the repair process. Or at least formally the trigger for the repair. The only way to repair a relationship is to re-engage, and then the question is there something substantive underneath? And I think what we saw very quickly is two things. One is an engagement on both sides with good faith and energy on the security side to work more closely together on the security side, and that has been followed up consistently with the ministers of foreign affairs, but also our national security advisors, our various security departments. So that pillar is there.
So the middle powers resistance that you spoke of in Davos, so the strategic reset of India and Canada should be seen from that lens?
Well, I'm a couple of things there, just not to be too picky about the rhetoric, but I wouldn't call India a middle power. I mean, India is, I'm happy for Canada to be called a middle power, but I don't view, in all seriousness, in terms of the trajectory and the ambition. The second thing is that it's not a what I view this as is we understand the way the world is. We understand that if you have a single dependency in something strategic, it could be food, it could be oil, it could be energy, it could be semiconductors, it could be elements of the intelligence stack, it could be in space. That's a risky position to be in if that is with one of the hegemons. That's revealed behavior. So there's the no regret strategy is to have more diversified partners. And it's a positive agenda. We're here with a positive agenda. It's not defensive. We have huge opportunities to build all the way across from food, energy, through to AI, up into space, literally up into space. And that will be good for both countries. It actually will, at the same time, make us less exposed to volatility in the world.
What can we expect then in terms of the CEPA? The Commerce Minister said that they hope that at least the launch of the talks, the fresh round of talks for the CEPA will happen during this visit of yours. What can we expect on that front?
Well, I think yes, I share the view of the Commerce, or the hope. Actually, I would upgrade his hope to an expectation, if not a certainty, that we would launch these talks. The second thing, the Prime Minister and myself agreed in Johannesburg, as I said in my remarks, that our intention is to sign a CEPA by the end of this year, ideally by the G20 summit, the upcoming G20 summit. In America, I guess. So that's the first. The second is there's a series of other agreements, for example, around critical minerals, which we would logically develop. Whether that's part of the CEPA or not is, for facts on the ground, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, we have the agreement between the two nations. So I see a series of other agreements. Critical minerals would be one. Maybe digital trade may be in or out, but I would expect that we need agreement in around that. So the ambition is much broader than even the comprehensive economic partnership.
You spoke about the Buyers Club for critical minerals. Do you see India as being part of it?
I think it's very important that India is part of it. When you get to areas like anything on the energy side, but let's stick with nuclear, anything on the food security side and others, Canada will be a reliable partner. We will not weaponize, be tempted to play with this. This is a crucial, and that's part of what. Again, I don't want to group India in as a middle power, but the non-hegemons. That's where when we come together, that's part of the advantage, and particularly with those countries where you share share a core set of values.